Yankees have a really exciting young prospect in AAA currently, and that's outfielder Everson Pereira, who's taken a massive step forward this season and has really put himself on the radar. Now, Everson Pereira was someone entering the year as a fringe top 100 prospect, someone who struggled with strikeouts and injuries and consistency, which made him an interesting prospect, someone who was more of a high ceiling, low floor type of guy who could bust this year or have an excellent year. And he's instead had an excellent season, and really, he's one of the Yankees' most exciting young prospects on the year so far. He's already maxed out at a 114.5 max exit velocity. That's the third best in the entire organization, including all levels of professional baseball for the Yankees, just behind Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton. A 114.5 mile per hour max exit velocity would give you roughly 70 grade raw power, and with that 94.3 mile per hour average exit velocity and 46% hard hit rate, it's translating in game as well. It's really important for us to remember that when a prospect has a flaw, it doesn't make them a bad player, it just makes them a flawed player. Now, he was in Baseball America's top 100. He's currently the number 5 prospect on the MLB pipeline for the New York Yankees, and quite honestly, I do think Everson Pereira is worthy of that top 100 hype because the performance, the ability to do it at just 22 years old, and the raw talent is absolutely phenomenal. I view Everson Pereira as one of the most talented outfielders, not just in the Yankee system, but in all of baseball, and I think the ceiling here is a really good hitter who can provide solid defense and pretty good base running. Now, he's had to dial it back in terms of his sprint speeds. He's sitting more at the 78th percentile instead of having elite level speed, and that's because, again, he suffered multiple injuries. He's had issues staying healthy and on the field, but for the most part this year, barring a couple of weeks where he was out with some lower body stuff, he's played and he's performed really well, and it hasn't seemed like the injuries have held him back, as his WRC plus is above 140 between AA and AAA this season, and he's been phenomenal. Now, the Yankees have some pretty obvious issues in left field, and I do think that Everson Pereira presents an in-house solution to those problems. Now, Pereira probably isn't Major League ready right now, and I do think that the Yankees would like to see at least the month of August with him in AAA, especially considering that it's just 17 games at that level. You want to make sure it's not just a hot streak and that he's genuinely this good of a hitter, and since there's a massive talent gap between AAA and MLB that's been created by an increased run environment, you have to take these counting stats with a grain of salt. Now, I don't think that Everson Pereira's production won't translate well at the Major League level. More so what I'm arguing is that we have to wait for a larger sample size, and in the Yankees' perspective, they need guys who are not going to be extremely volatile and can be reliable options in the outfield this year, and it could probably hurt Pereira's development if they rush him. So looking at 2024 as a realistic ETA just makes a little bit more sense. It's possible for him to push himself into a Major League role. There's still plenty of time this year for him to get to the starting lineup, but I do think the Yankees are going to opt to wait until next year, and I do think that that's the right decision for now. I'm more than willing to change that opinion if Pereira continues to dominate at AAA, but that's more of the realistic ETA here. Now, a couple of really interesting notes about Everson Pereira that I think make him a quality outfielder and someone that the Yankees should look at as a piece of their future is his unique approach. Now, he's a more aggressive hitter. He's obviously going to swing and miss a little bit more, not going to walk as much. That OBP is not going to be very high, but his average is pretty good. He knows how to bat at a pretty high clip, and that's because of how hard he hits the ball and the fact that he generates enough line drives and he can beat out those tough grounders. But I also think that his ability to combine that with a high slugging percentage and that unique approach makes him a really nice fit for this lineup. A right-handed hitter with strikeout issues doesn't sound like a great fit, but an aggressive hitter who can hit for power, is a younger guy, and can play the outfield is something the Yankees should certainly look into having. It gives them someone who can give them some home run power down there. It also gives them someone who they know is going to push the action, not going to look for a walk like everyone else. And while looking for walks is typically a good thing, I would advocate for guys who don't chase, and I typically don't like offensive profiles where a batter does chase frequently. I do think it plays into Pereira's game, and I do think having some sort of diversification in your lineup can be pretty important, especially considering that you want to have different guys who match up well with different pitchers across the league. Now, ultimately, Everson Pereira is still an unfinished product. This guy just turned 22 last April, so this isn't a guy you're really looking at as a finished guy, someone that you expect to stop growing or stop developing at this point in time. And in terms of MLB comps and kind of floors or, worst case scenarios, I think a guy that we should really look at as a good comparison for Everson Pereira is Adolis Garcia, who's slowly gotten better with his plate discipline at the Major League level, but has always been an aggressive hitter. He hits the ball hard. He has a pretty solid solid average. His OBP kind of tanks due to that aggressive approach, but he's a versatile outfielder like Pereira, playing all 3 outfield spots. Just like Pereira, I do think he'll end up settling into a corner outfield role, not a center field role. And just like Pereira, this is a guy who just goes up there and looks to hit. So I do think that's kind of like the ideal MLB comparison for Everson Pereira. Whereas if we're looking at like a floor here, I think Esteban Florial is a pretty good comparison here. Now, Everson Pereira is a good bit younger than Florial. He's 3 years younger to be exact, but there are still the same flaws of having a lot of injury issues, having a lot of strikeout issues, and if those things don't correct themselves, he could end up being a guy who just puts up really good minor league numbers, but never has it translate to the major league level, just like Esteban Florial. Now, I don't think Everson Pereira has to become a high contact bat or run below league average strikeout rates, but he does have to manage them, and that's really the key here when we're talking about guys who strike out a lot. So if Pereira can kind of manage his strikeout rates and stay relatively healthy, I do think he's going to be a really good ball player at the major league level. He's still got plenty of time to develop. The Yankees obviously have holes in their outfield, not even just in left field. They're going to have an opening in center field when Harrison Bader hits free agency. So Pereira can really force himself into the major league conversation at some point during the winter, or as I mentioned earlier, with a really good month of August, force himself into that conversation right now. But with that being said, we'd love to know what you guys think in the comment section below. Everson Pereira, really talented guy. Love talking about him. I think he's one of the most fun prospects in the system. He's an electric hitter who's got so much going for him, and I hope you guys agree with that as well, and I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. You guys know you can check us out at Fireside Yankees on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and of course this YouTube page. You guys know that the audio versions of our podcast are on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And of course, you guys can check out Empire Sports Media for all your favorite New York sports content. We've got plenty of articles on there all the time. And I'm Ryan Garcia. Again, you can follow me at Ryan Garcia ESM. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Stay on your fireside, guys. Let's go Yankees. Peace out.